You're listening to the Third Coast Gridiron H-Town's podcast on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
Heading into the fourth round of the playoffs, it's about to go down this week. We know that this is no season for the weak. Deep in the playoffs, we got a couple of rematches this week in the regional finals. Heavyweight action in H-Town for the playoffs. This is your host, Marc Henry, for the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network, the Lone Star Gridiron Network, the authority for high school football in Texas, man. H-Town, we got you locked in, man. We're going to talk about some of these big matchups, big-time playmakers in these matchups. If you listen to the show this season, this year, you got to let your ballers be ballers. You got to let your playmakers be playmakers. Well, it's ballers and playmakers all on both sides on all of these games. In these matchups we're going to talk about in the regional finals, man. This is what we're going to talk about, H-Town. We're going to give it to you. Your host, Marc Henry, right here on the TCG. We're going to take a small break, and we're going to dive right in head first and get you ready for these regional finals. State of Texas. We're a couple of weeks away from the state championships in Jerry World. Who do we think's going to make it? We're going to talk about that and more right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We'll be right back.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Now, before we head into these matchups this week, let's revisit a couple of games from last week. Of course, the big matchup, Summer Creek and Katy. Over in the Katy area was a big game. Summer Creek comes back late and takes the victory, gets the win 38-37. We talked about Noah Spinks earlier in the years. I thought that he's going to be the reason or could be the difference or the glue that brings these pieces together of a talented bunch of guys on this team. You got Causey, you got Benny Easter, the Texas Tech commit, who's only a junior. Spinks is only a junior. These guys are playing at a high level. Now, we know they had the loss to Seed King earlier in the year, and we're going to talk about that matchup here shortly. But I thought, in watching this game, I thought that Noah Spinks showed that he has the clutch gene. He was able to bring these guys back on a last-second drive, and a last-minute drive in the fourth quarter, and get it done. I think that Noah Spinks is really probably one of the better quarterbacks in the state, maybe that a lot of people talking about. Of course, he's a phenomenal talent in the Houston area. But when you get to this deep in the playoffs in the fourth round, you start to look at the landscape of the entire state and how these players stack up against each other. Because once they get out of this region, it's into the semis, and then it's to Jerry World for the finals or the state championship. He showed moxie. He showed, the ability to move in and out of the pocket, eluding pressure. He made some runs. He made several key plays with his feet to get first downs, to move the chains, to extend his drive. I thought he showed that he's a cool customer under pressure. And he was one of the big reasons that they got this win. Katy played well. Tremaine Hill was running the rock. I thought that Katy's defense played well. Forcing some turnovers and some 3 and outs early. I'm telling you, I like these guys. We'll get into that Seed King matchup here in a little bit, but Noah Spinks played a phenomenal game. There was a reason that they got that 38-37 win, and they faced their rival 23-6A with 3 teams still left in 26-6A in the playoffs, including North Shore. We'll talk about them shortly, but shout out to Noah Spinks. He made a big time impact, and they advanced. They get that big win. Now, speaking of Seed King, they flooded the block this week. They took care of Jordan 52-0. And I talked about Timothy Potts either the week before or 2 weeks ago, that I think he's a guy that's really been playing well that a lot of people talking about. He had 320 yards and 4 total touchdowns. He gets it done with his feet as well. They're going to face Summer Creek, and we're going to break that game down here before we get out of here today. But I think that he's been playing at a high level. We talked about him as a guy that's really been kind of not talked about. Of course, we hear about, Deion Sims and Dylan Mitchell and some of the other guys that they have around. But I think they don't advance this far and aren't in this position to win the region without Timothy Potts. He had a phenomenal game. I think Sea Kings turned the corner for sure. Of course, we saw this matchup coming a few weeks ago. We know they Sea King lost to North Shore late in the year, but this, sometimes teams like this, and you can even look at Summer Creek losing to Sea King earlier in the year. They need that reset button to kind of reset themselves and say, hey, we need to focus on this and clean up a few things. We can get back in this thing. The end goal is a state championship. It takes 6 games after the regular season to get there. We're heading into the 4th week of postseason play, and now you start to see the big dogs step up. But I think it's going to be a big game. We'll talk about that game here shortly. Shout out to the Dickinson Gators. Look, the Gators, I had a chance to see this game as well. They played a phenomenal game against a very good running back in the nation. In Johnny Abear, kind of held him in check. Straight Jesuit only had 211 total yards, barely averaged 4 yards a play. I'm telling you right now, this Dickinson defense is something to look at. And they got a big one against North Shore this week. And we're going to talk about that before we get out of here. But their quarterback, Lorenzo Aguirre, he's playing at a high level. 3 touchdown passes. Caleb Peterson found the end zone 3 times as well. They got a big one this week, but I think the Gators are ready for this challenge to take on North Shore. They're not backing down. And if you haven't seen Dickinson play, this might be the game for you to pull up. Man, I'm telling you, man, it's going to be rocking the U of H in the third ward in the tray. North Shore and Dickinson, but we'll talk about that here shortly. Man, shout out to Landon Williams-Callis, man. He had 6 touchdowns and an 83-20 victory over at PV over Bastrop. Over 300 yards, man. Listen, for my money, he's the best in the country. I know that they got some other guys. There's a guy in Tennessee that I had a chance to see some film on, talk to some guys about. And there's a kid up in Tennessee, up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, Landon Williams-Callis is rolling right now. He's playing at a high level. I think he's bigger, stronger, and faster than he was last year. I had a chance to see him against Iowa Colony, which we're getting round 4 of that installment of that game. We're going to talk about that as well. But you got to look at that Randall offensive line as well. Shout out to my guy, Coach Randall, over there at Randall High School. They've been doing a phenomenal job. And I think this is going to be, they have a chance to go back. This is going to be the game. Of course, we're going to talk about that as well. But, speaking of Iowa Colony, they fought tooth and nail to get back in it, and they beat a tough Brenham squad 31-30. Their only loss was to Randall early in the year. Carson White's been phenomenal. I think that Carson White is showing everybody that he's one of the best in the state, and you need to get this guy on radars as one of the best guys in the country. The game against Randall really showed me, and that was the big game in the coming out party where you see Carson White as he's that guy that's taking that next step. But you got to look at running back Aaron Tenner as well. 223 yards and a touchdown, averaging over 7 yards a carry. This is a phenomenal balance that they have on offense. Of course, you got, Jaden Warren outside, the Texas A&M commit. This is going to be one of those games. Of course, we're going to save the game for here in the next segment. But Iowa Colony's coming. I think it's hard to beat a team, more than once. I mean, we happened to see this a few years ago when North Shore was dominant with Demetrius Davis and those guys and beating Duncanville 4 straight times. That's the only time I can remember a team being dominant like that. And I actually saw that with my own eyes. So, every time they played, it seemed like North Shore just had something that Duncanville didn't have. But Duncanville learned from that, and that's the reason they got back-to-back state titles. Coach Samples and those guys, it's levels to this stuff, guys. It's levels to it. If you don't know, you look at all of these teams that we're talking about left in the playoffs now. There's no slouches. There's no teams that don't belong. These guys in these regional finals are here because they have program, community, and pedigree when it comes to winning. Look at everybody. The programs, the pedigree, and the communities that back them. That's what they got. Shout out to Crawford, man. Alvin Mosley is one of the best players in the country. 4-star wide receiver, man. 167 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Trayson Richardson is a guy as well. 6 tackles on D, a pick, and a fumble recovery. I like this Crawford team. They got a tangle with Kilgore, and that I like Crawford in this game. I'm not gonna pull no punches. I like Crawford in the game against Kilgore. I know Kilgore went to state last year, but I'm telling you right now, I like Crawford, and I'm pulling for him. Barbers Hill, shout out to those guys. It's their first time since winning the 3A state title in 1976 that they're this deep in the playoffs in the 4th round. Big 34-31 victory over Pflugerville Weiss, which is a really good team. They got a really good sophomore quarterback in Jackson Shad at Pflugerville Weiss. Weiss is here to stay. That was a tough game. I had a chance to peep a little bit of that game. And Barbers Hill, they got their hands full this week with PA Memorial. We're going to talk about that game here shortly. But, they did what they needed to do to get back in it and to win it. Lastly but not least, man, we got to talk about the 5-star Texas commit, Jermaine Bishop Jr. He goes up to the Frisco Star, the Jerry World, Dallas Cowboys, and puts on a show. 328 yards, 15 catches, 3 touchdowns. He also converted 2 4th downs. He also had the game-winning pick or to seal the deal. Man, I want to say this is one of the best all-around performances on both sides of the ball that I've seen this year. I had a chance to see this game up close, and Bishop put on a show. His tackling was the most important or the most impressive, I would say, thing, because he tackled one of the best backs in the country in Javion Osborne for 40. Every time it looks like Osborne was about to break one, here comes Bishop. And they butted heads all night long. This was a heavyweight battle between those 2 5-star recruits. That's what you see at this point of the playoffs, is you see that, and you're like, man, hey, this is what you come to see. This is worth the price of admission. Jermaine Bishop Jr. put on a show, but for his effort this week, they got the DeSoto Eagles, which they saw last year and the year before. This has been a running theme. Now, this is in the 4th round instead of the 3rd round now. But we're going to talk about those games, this game, Bishop, DeSoto, and all of these regional final matchups right here on the TCG. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to dive right into it head first. Regional final action, the TCG, Third Coast Gridiron, H-Towns Podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
We got a few rematches, and we got some of the biggest games in the state right here in H-Town. We talk about Dallas, we talk about San Antonio and other parts of the state. But in my opinion, the toughest regions, or the toughest area to get out of is Houston. A lot of times, the Houston teams beat up on each other to go to state. Now, in other parts of the state, they usually play some other regions and things, but everything is centralized in Houston when it comes to this round of the playoffs. It's doggy dog. It's you got to knock the big dog off the porch. And we can't start nowhere else but with North Shore and Dickinson. Dickinson is the upstart team at 13-0 this season. North Shore has 2 losses against the top team in 5A D2 in South Oak Cliff. And then they had a big loss to Summer Creek at the end of the season. This is a battle-tested squad. I think that this is going to be a game where, Dickinson's going to come in and try to dictate this thing. They're going to try to come in and play stout against the run. They got to contain Caleb Maryland. They have the speed in that front 7 to do it. And they got one of the best defensive backs in the state in sophomore Royce Bemidge. This is a true cover lockdown corner. They're not going to throw at this guy for sure. Now they may try some other ways to get the ball out in the air, but if you throw it up there to Bimich, he's going to take it to the house. This is a straight lockdown corner. But I expect Caleb Maryland to play well. This is a game, it's going to be run in the trenches. Of course, North Shore's always been strong. But this Dickinson offensive line plays well. Malachi Gamble, the running back, I think could be a difference maker in this game. But North Shore's North Shore. We got to see. In order to be the big dog, you got to knock them off. That's Friday over there at H-Town at the Third Ward at Houston, University of Houston. It's going to be a monumental game. You know what I'm saying? And I think, this is one of those games where you are going to have to see if Dickinson can come up with it. But I had a chance to see Dickinson. I've seen a couple of their games. They're explosive. And Lorenzo Aguirre's playing at a high level. I mean, I think he's playing some of the best football in the state, not just in the not just in his area or district. Get this guy on your map. I'm telling you right now. North Shore Dickinson is going to be a high-scoring affair, but we're going to see what it do. You know what I'm saying? I think that North Shore's been into this type of, experience when it comes to playing deep in the playoffs and going to state. Dickinson's, this is new for them. But if anybody can do it, I think Dickinson can. Summer Creek Sea Kings, the next matchup. I mean, this is over at Thorne on the north side, H-Town, Friday night. I think that this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a lot of scoring. Summer Creek, of course, we mentioned Noah Spinks in the phenomenal game that he had against Katy last week. Sea King dominated Jordan. I think this is a game where this is a toss-up. You know what I mean? I think that, Sea King's Timothy Potts is probably not being talked about enough at the quarterback position. Of course, you got Deion Sims and Dylan Mitchell. Now, Summer Creek lets them get out early like they did last time with the turnovers. They had 4 turnovers in the first half in that first game. I don't think you see that. This ain't happening this time. This is going to be man up, and let's ball. I don't think Coach Harrison is going to take 4 turnovers from his guys in this one, or at least they'll be going home. So you got to look at it like that, man. This is a great game, I'm telling you right now. But if I had to look at who I'm leaning to, I like Summer Creek in this game for some reason. Willis DeSoto, a matchup of 2 teams that met last year. This is going to be at Baylor on Saturday. So if you got time and the weather permits, man, this might be one of the best games in the state.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
We just talked about the supreme performance by Jermaine Bishop Jr. Over 328 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception, multiple tackles on both sides of the ball. But this is not Forney. This is DeSoto. I need you guys to go look at DeSoto's running back, the junior, Sarah Baker. He's one of the top running backs in the state. And if you ask me, he's one of the top in the country. I've had a chance to see him on several occasions this year, and he gets better as the game goes on. That big offensive line that DeSoto's going to come out and lean. Dejon Moore had a monster game as well. And, I think that he showed that he's one of those guys. He's a Maryland commit. This is one of those things. But Frazier, the quarterback for Willis, is going to have to be on his game. I expect DeSoto to try to ramp up the pressure, get the ball out of his hands quick. But he's played at a phenomenal level. The freshman's going to be a 4-star recruit before all is said and done. I like his poise. I like his ability to get the ball out quick. And then he can make a few plays with his feet if he needs to. This will be at Baylor, though. This will be a big game. And then when you talk to Soto, you can't not talk about USC committed 5-star wide receiver Ethan Feaster, who had a monster game against College Park. And then you also have to look at Legend Howell. The quarterback is playing at a phenomenal level. This is not going to be, a cakewalk for Willis, but DeSoto is DeSoto. If you know anything about Texas high school football, look up DeSoto, and they're right in the thick of things every year. It's going to be a monster game. Barbers Hill and PA Memorial. Listen, PA Memorial is a squad that can get it done. Monte Martin, the TCU commit, has been playing at a high level. He runs that pill. You know what I mean? You got Tank King, one of the top linebackers in the country, committed to A&M. This is a big game. I don't know if Barbers Hill's ready for this. And I think the game is in Beaumont. Yeah, so they got to come to Beaumont. Man, I expect Port Arthur Memorial to pack this thing out, and I expect them to win this ball game. I really like them, but I'm not going to count out Barbers Hill. But I'm leaning towards PA Memorial in this game. Now, the big matchup, the creme de la creme, the matchup that everybody's going to be talking about or is talking about is Randall versus Iowa College. Of course, Randall's the top team in the state of 5A D2, undefeated. Iowa College's only loss was to Randall. This has become a rivalry. This has become the Hatfields and McCoys. This is going to be the game. Probably the best game in the state, if you ask me, all weekend long. In the fourth round, this is the game. Landon Williams-Callis, Carson White, Aaron Tenner, and those guys, Jaden Warren, superstars. This is what you look for in Texas high school football. This is why we do it big in the state of Texas when it comes to high school football. Florida, Georgia, California, they talk about all these other places. This is the game. This is how we roll in the state of Texas. If you want to see, if you're an outsider, if you're out of the state of Texas, and you just want to see a great football game, a competitive football game, a game that's going to be packed, that's going to have the bands, that's going to have everything pageantry-wise, this is it. Why I think so? I know I've seen both of these teams play. I saw them play in the last meeting that they had. And you won't get 2 fumbles early out of Landon Williams-Callis this time. Iowa College got to play a perfect game. As of now, in these last matchups, they haven't proven that they can stop Williams-Callis in any way, any form or fashion, whether it's on the ground, he can catch it out of the backfield. I'm telling you right now, they got to put some defensive pressure on these guys in order to get this dub. But Carson White showed me in the last meeting that they had early in the season that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state in the 2027 class. And get him on your radar. He's got double-digit offers, but what I'm saying is college coaches need to look at this guy as somebody who can come in and be a difference maker when he steps on campus. We talked about Crawford and Kilgore. Alvin Mosley is one of the top players in the country, hands down. Hands down. I really like his game. Big body receiver. He can go get his speed. He's a hooper too. You know what I'm saying? So, he's an all-around athlete. He's one of the top recruits in the state in the 2027 class. Trayson Richardson has been playing at a high level as well. I like Crawford in this game. I'm not going to even kid you. I'm not going to even lie. I know that Kilgore's got that pedigree of being an East Texas squad. They went to state last year, but I like these guys. Now let's move down to 3A. Columbus and Yoakum is going to be an interesting game, man. Both teams 11-2. Columbus is the reigning 3A Division I champ, and they looking to get back, man. I think that, Columbus has the edge here, but, at this point of the season, you can't count anybody out. In the fourth round, like I said at the beginning of the show, there's no slouches, there's no cupcakes. Yoakum's a tough squad. We're going to see. You know what I'm saying? Xavier Barnett is one of their top players or playmakers. He's committed to SMU. He's probably their best player, but they got some young guns that can go to at quarterback and running back. Should be an interesting game. I can't wait to check this one out and get back to you next week on it, man. That's all we got for you here on the TCG. We appreciate everybody tapping in and joining us on the Lone Star Gridiron Network. We are H-Town's podcast. We're going to give it to you right. We're going to give it to you straight. That's what we do, H-Town for life. TCG, man. I am your host, Marc Henry. Follow me on Twitter at Third Gridiron. You can also follow me at MarkHen44 or on the Mark Sports. at TXTP Show on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll get at you next week and get with the program, man. If you're not at a game this week, you don't love Texas high school football, because this is where it's at. And this is where we're going to keep it 10 toes down. And that's the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.